Saal selber fast nicht sehen, also ihr müsstet die Hände hochhalten. Okay, Alex, bitte.
Okay, thanks very much. And I'd like to start by thanking MARX 21 and the Rosa-Luxemburg Institute for making this extremely important discussion possible. Because it's a very important development that out of the in the midst of the apparent suffocating domination ideologically and politically of neoliberalism, suddenly in the last 2 to 3 years, a serious discussion about the idea of communism has started. And we need that discussion, because essentially at the heart of that discussion is the question not of reforming capitalism, not of regulating it or making it more humane, but of creating a fundamentally different kind of society, a systemic alternative to capitalism. So I think this is a very important development, and Slavoj, among the many great contributions he's made to the radical left, is his role in getting that discussion going. But I think there's been a problem with the debate so far, which is that it's remained primarily at a learned and philosophical level. And what I'd like to do, and it's very vain of me, and I'm sure Slavoj will point this out, is, so I'll do it first, what I want to do is to essentially repeat what Marx did, because in the middle of the 1840s, Marx took the discussion of communism away from the philosophers, away from the theorists, and placed it in a very different kind of terrain. How did Marx do this? In the German ideology, he and Engels write that communism is the real movement for abolishing the existing state of affairs. And that was a fundamental move, because it meant saying that communism isn't just an ideal or a principle. Communism is the real historical process through which capitalism is abolished. More than that, of course, communism is also the name of the different kind of society that will emerge out of that historical process of destruction and transformation. Of course, Marx doesn't say very much about what that different kind of society would be like. Christina has made one very important quotation that in communism the free determination of each will be the condition of the free determination of all. Much later in his life, Marx, in the Critique of the Gotha program, says that under communism the principle will reign from each according to his abilities, to each according to his needs, which is a fundamental challenge to the whole basis on which not just capitalism but all class societies have been organized. But one area of discussion is how much more deeply we need to specify the content of the idea of communism. But that's not what I want to focus on now. I want to focus on this question of communism as the real movement for abolishing capitalism, and try and give some content to that idea. Now, in contemporary discussions, how this is often specified is the idea of communism as the collective appropriation of the commons. And this is an idea that towards whose development Slavoj has contributed. And the idea is that the world is full of good stuff that is collectively created in different ways. This can be land, other natural resources, it can be different kinds of intellectual achievements. And what capitalism does is privately to appropriate and seize this good stuff and turn it in the direction of private profit. Now, of course, it's true, capitalism is constantly stealing good stuff. Capitalism is an enormous machine of parasitism and theft. However, one of the great things we get from Marx is that capitalism isn't simply a matter of thievery and parasitism. One of the things that Marx insists on, at much the same time that he's formulating his conception of communism, is that capitalism is a relation. And capitalism is a social relation defined fundamentally by the relationship of exploitation between capitalists and workers. And this is absolutely critical if we have to if we're going to have any conception of how to go to communism. Because there's a duality, as so often in Marx, there's a duality to the idea of of the relationship of exploitation. Of course, in exploitation, the worker is exploited, is alienated, is denied his or her fundamental potential to live, has his or her labor stolen. Exploitation is foul, but it's also a relationship of interdependence, in which the capitalist is dependent on the worker because it's the worker's labor that is the source of the capitalist profits. And this puts the capitalist in the worker's power, potentially. When workers fight collectively, they disrupt the whole working of capitalism. More than that, when workers fight, it is precisely collectively, founded on solidarity, in other words, and that solidarity, which is an essential feature of any workers' struggle, an essential condition of any workers' struggle, is also communism in embryo. Now, you may say, this is all old-fashioned stuff in the early 21st century. Oh, someone's clapping. The rest of you should boo them or something like that. But I think that that's a mistake, because the 21st century has turned out, like the 20th century, to be a century of revolutions. And 2011 will be remembered more than anything else as a year of revolutions, with what has happened in Tunisia and Egypt and the spreading revolutionary wave in the Arab world. And everyone in the world knows, even the rulers of China, even Barack Obama, knows that this revolutionary wave, even though it's centered in the Middle East, has global implications. And if we look at those revolutions, what we see in there is the re-emergence of the working class as, let me put it more modestly, the beginnings of the re-emergence of the working class as a collective political struggle. It was a general strike that delivered the death blow to the Ben Ali regime in Tunisia. What finally forced the generals and the White House to remove Mubarak was a wave of strikes that continues in Egypt in the present time. And what we're seeing, what we can see, particularly in Egypt and Tunisia, are unfolding revolutionary processes, incomplete revolutionary processes that contain within them an enormous range of possibilities, some of which are not very nice possibilities, and we have to be realistic about that. But among those possibilities is that of a movement towards real communism. And therefore, what I think where we are in the world today is one where we're getting glimpses of how we could begin to move towards real communism. I don't want to exaggerate. These are just glimpses. They're just moments. They could be snuffed out, like many other revolutionary moments have been. But nevertheless, Marx's old spectre is beginning to haunt the world again. And the question for us is what we can do in order, I'm going to stop, what we can do to make those glimpses more than simply glimpses, to transform them, or to help to play our part in transforming them into that real movement that can abolish the existing state of affairs and by God, or however you pray to or don't pray to, it does need abolition.